just a slap on the wrist.
Please join us.
Why didn't you join me, Potemkin? I was the monster all along. What is good, fellas? Patriarch Panda here today, and you know what? I felt like I wanted to make this video to educate people on the current state of Potemkin. As we know, without a doubt, during the previous season, Potemkin was top 1, top 2, top 3, about that range in terms of power. Extremely powerful character that did pretty well in the meta, with Andros taking 2 key results and a boy getting top 3 at Evo. You put a good player with a good character and you'll see work always be put in. Jack is the prime example of that, and when it comes to it, I want to talk about how these nerfs actually affect Potemkin a lot more than what would one think. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe as we get into it. Check out the Kofi, and if you want to help me out, become a member. But let's get into it. The first things I want to mention is anything that Potemkin got that made him slightly stronger this patch. That way I can kind of outbalance it with the negatives that hit him without a doubt. The first main positive is the fact that Mega Fist, depending on the hit, can actually give you a pickup now meterlessly, which is kind of a cool factor because on counter it means it pops the opponent up for a bigger combo. I kind of like this as it adds more sauce to the tool if you get like those sweet spots, but it makes it more punishable if you're up close. So there's a risk reward there depending on how you use Mega Fist now, and I'm a big fan of that. And of course you can still get your Oki with Karagaruda, but it is backdashable, so you know what, there's a lot of fun things going on there without a doubt. One pretty decent buff is that characters that were pretty good against Potemkin did get hit. For example, Johnny and Sin, because of the way Orange Wild Assault works and how hard their characters were hit, it kind of buffs up Potemkin a little bit, as that was his only competition with the top tier range. Potemkin is looking a lot more positive compared to those characters that were hit without a doubt to be put in the bottom 10, maybe mid-tier section. In terms of positives, that's it. Potemkin gotta keep a lot of the things that made him strong, like the way Hammerfall works with meter, Potemkin Buster being able to steal a ton of meter, and of course his damage. But I want to get into the things that made him weaker this patch, that way you can understand that this version of Pot is definitely not, and maybe not the top 1 monster that some people still make him out to be. To start us off, I'll look at Potemkin himself before we start looking at the other aspects of the game that affected him, but not on purpose. So for example, the first one is that he no longer gains hard knockdowns off stray hits. One of the strongest round starts as Potemkin is getting someone conditioned to the fact that they want a backdash potbuster round start. That way you can clock them with a 5H and you get the corner in a matter of 3 seconds, which is very powerful. However, because of the change to Hammerfall, the Oki is basically impossible now. You'll never get Oki off of stray hits, which is very strong in terms of nerfing this character who got Oki off of everything. The same goes for Far Slash. If he wants Oki now, he has to commit straight to Slide Head. This is a little hard to confirm because on counter hit you have to delay the Slide Head. So there's a ton of nuance going into his Oki whenever he gets stray hits now. Simply put it, Pot is only getting Oki off of Pot Buster, close slash routings, and anything to do with counter hit. Anything else, not so much. So I actually quite like this nerf. I think it balances him out so that way he isn't just an oppressive monster on a Far Slash knockdown. The next pretty big nerf is the fact that Hammerfall no longer tracks the opponent. This means at full screen the opponent could do a backdash to kind of OS Hammerfall with or without meter, because if it had meter you would keep chasing the opponent and catching their backdash, and then you could RC to keep the chase going. If the opponent walks back and decides to backdash at the last moment, I think they should be able to deal with a ton of the Hammerfall offense that can be set up besides Hammerfall into Gigantor, because again, that is quite a powerful tool. A pretty huge nerf to Potemkin is the way Slide Head works now. Slide Head works the exact same way except it has no armor on it. And this affects quite a lot of matchups where it was definitely strong. Against Testament, this was a key tool to beat Stain, as it would give you a hard knockdown and allow you to escape Arbiter Sign setups where you'd have to take the Stain. Whereas if you had the Stain, did Slide Head, you'd be able to interrupt them before you get the Stain hit activated. So Slide Head was very powerful in this matchup. Now, it is no longer the case, being a very difficult tool to use in the matchup, so you're going to have to trade out a lot of your Slide Head opposition moments with Hammerfall, Break, and Flick. But therein lies the problem. Slide Head was very good at beating Stain, Hammerfall and Flick are not good at beating Stain, so if you're able to Hammerfall through a poke, you're actually going to get popped up for a combo now. Matchups like this is a pretty significant nerf. Anytime that you needed the armor of Slide Head to get through a situation, for example, I like to Slide Head Gold Lewis when he goes for like a neutral behemoth like 684, Just like that, your character is going to be weaker in these matchups. In the matchups this really affects are matchups like Gold Lewis, Testament, Leo Whitefang, Zato 1, Faust, Elfel, Dizzy, Venom, Unica. Without a doubt, these matchups were pretty good to slide dead into. Now, I wouldn't recommend it. I'd recommend try to play neutral like a normal gremlin. I feel like a lot of people ignore this change because they don't view Slide Dead as strong as his other tools, whereas this tool's more of a nuisance. Now, it's not even a factor you need to think about, and where matchups are strong, it's no longer a factor. Now, the next nerfs are pretty indirect, but affect him pretty heavily. For example, Heavenly, now using the bar frame 1, means he can no longer super PRC unless he's sitting on 2 bars a meter, where he'll still gain a meter positive situation where he's touching 40%. This was a pretty effective nerf, as it means that Potemkin no longer has a 50 bar situation that would actually give him back the 50 bar and deal 40% with iframes. So this is actually a pretty huge nerf to Potemkin in terms of defense, where a lot of people think he's lacking unless you use armor and Fuzzy Buster. The next pretty big nerf is the way YRC works. Well, when Potemkin's been YRC, it kinda sucked, right? Because you had to kinda hold the opponent's pressure, but you know, they push you back now, so you're kinda back to a state where you can kinda poke into your opponent. However, where Potemkin was nerfed is when he did YRC. When he did YRC, there was a 50-50 unfuzzyable Potemkin Buster opportunity. This is something he no longer has access to, as the pushback puts him far out of range, meaning he no longer get that guaranteed 50-50, so Potemkin got hit pretty hard for the YRC changes. Another big change that hit him pretty hard is the way risk works. Potemkin, with a small bit of risk, you can delete the opponent's health bar without a doubt. Melia dies against a 2-bar Potemkin at 10 risk, which is a pretty common scenario if he ever gets a corner at round start. Now, his damages went down quite substantially at small risk, meaning he's no longer that threat that he once was. He's still going to hit pretty hard, but he isn't going to kill you anymore, which is actually a pretty healthy change. I'm a big fan of this. They also did make him more squishy, but I don't think this matters too much as he's still one of the tankiest characters in the game. Also, another big change about YRC that I neglected to mention is that you can YRC guard crushes. What does this mean? Well, Garuda, as a meaty tool, is no longer guaranteed. So if you notice that the close to Potemkin when he does Garuda, that is now a YRC opportunity to escape his 50-50 vortex really quickly. It's guaranteed, you're out, that's it. The only time you'll lose is against the Space Garuda, but against the Space Garuda, you can actually kinda go for Deflect to push him out even more, meaning that he's no longer in that space. Deflect was already pretty strong against him, and now YRC is also going to be a factor to take in. So overall, Potemkin did get hit quite a decent bit. These changes really affect him. And when it comes to other things, you gotta mention the matchups. A lot of his top tier brethren have been nerfed to bottom, and I feel like they didn't nerf Potemkin too heavily, as he's a unique archetype within the fighting game, where there's not really anyone playing his archetype. Whereas everyone else, we're all playing the same thing, which is a character that can do everything plus 50-50s in the corner. Whereas Potemkin is the big body grappler, where his 50-50 is unique compared to most characters within this game. And that's why I don't think he got hit as heavily compared to someone like Johnny or Sin. He still has some amazing strengths like the way Gigantor works, Potemkin Buster still has armor, amazing fuzzy defense, and of course having some pretty solid health that can lead to cash out resources. And the Blue Wild Assault changes definitely affecting him. It messes me up. Now you have to do the Hammerfall break every time, which I'm not used to if I'm honest. But it's a lot better than doing the Garuda afterwards. When it comes to characters that got buffed, Potemkin has quite the threats to watch out for now. For example, Venom becoming a lot stronger might be something about worrying as he does more damage. Don't get me wrong, Pot can still flick the projectiles, but in terms of playing neutral against the man, has to kind of be careful because I believe if Venom gets the corner, it's Vortex Central, and Venom has quite the good baits from what I remember. Kai getting buffed might also be an issue as he has a ton of ways to approach in on Potemkin, and having more consistent ways to deal damage, that is a scary thing to deal with, so Kai might become a Potemkin threat for sure. Axel getting buffed is a pretty big deal, don't get me wrong, Pot can still flick the Rancid, but in terms of the pokes, confirms and damage going up, Potemkin's big strong health might look a wee bit more squishier against this British Bulldog. Abba getting stronger is definitely a threat without a doubt. The character can now threat and throw and still have Jealousy install, and that was one of the strongest situations in the game. And Potemkin doesn't have an iframe getup that works pretty well against Abba, so if he wants to beat throw, he has to kind of guess it out and try guess it for YRC a lot of the time, which is a pretty risky play, so Abba getting stronger might be a genuine threat for this big man. HC getting stronger is without a doubt a big threat. Slidehead was amazing in the matchup if you could place it well enough. Now Slidehead doesn't give you the OK if you do, and Slidehead doesn't even have the armor. So Happy Chaos might be absolutely running that matchup now, as he already did pretty well in neutral. It was all about the comeback 50-50 opportunities that Potemkin was pretty good at doing, and he looks like he's still going to have to rely on that as neutral and offense. A lot more brutal to deal with. Jacko getting buffed is a pretty big deal against Potemkin as her chip damage goes up with risk, and as we know, one of the main things that make Jacko strong is getting the corner and running that chip damage pressure until she can land that tap 5D due to the risk going up. And because risk does more damage on chip damage is universal, so Potemkin's guts doesn't matter, so Jacko gets the corner at max risk, which is pretty common in that matchup. Bye-bye. Either bye-bye health or bye-bye meter. It's your choice now, big man. But yeah, that's everything I'd like to say. I feel like Potemkin got nerfed a lot more than people kind of lead on, and I want to kind of clear the air a little bit, because a lot of people just think he stayed the same. When he didn't, he definitely got nerfed. The character is still strong, do not get me wrong, Andros is still doing bits for the character. But at the end of the day, he's not as brutal as he was in Season 4. I still think he's like a top 5, maybe top 3 type placement, but I do not think he's number 1 anymore. That crown may go to Happy Chaos, or maybe even Jacko, but that's me capping. Who knows, who knows. I don't know them out yet, we're gonna have to take some time. But I just want you to think about these nerfs, as I think they're a pretty big deal. Yeah, fellas, that's me, Patriarch Panda. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe. And of course, if you want to help me out, check out the membership system and the kofi, as I'm using this to fund my offline trips. But I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya!